Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 3, third chapter, Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes.
Philosopher's Stone. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Yes.
Before we get into it, how are you?
I am doing well.
Yeah, still lesson planning.
Yes.
How is that going?
Okay. I being my weird philosophical self, so.
Yeah, I got into some Foucault.
Well, I guess it doesn't help that we're also doing this very deep analysis of Harry Potter at the same time. And I'm like,
no, it helps.
What does the world mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. We just make it up as we go along.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
What about you? How's your day continuing?
Yeah, we are recording on the same day. We've broken the fourth wall here. Even though we changed clothing, this is the same day as
we have to return the green screen, so.
We do, yeah, we got to get it all in. So we're just going to read all 7 books in 3 days.
Speed read.
And just record all of these episodes.
Y'all ready?
Yeah, it would be funnier if we just wore the same clothes all the time. Yeah. It'd be good, no matter what day it is. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get through maybe a couple more with this green screen rental and then reset and see where we're at. We have to read, right?
Yeah.
There's a kind of a problem that happens, which is that it's very easy to read on, and then we have to sort of situate
determine
ourselves.
Where the lines are.
Yeah.
Like, where does this start? Where does it end?
Yeah,
I think in the last episode I was about to say something about Hagrid, and I was like, not yet. It's actually 2 more chapters away.
Yeah. We're closing it, and we're closing in. Yeah. Juan's ready?
Juan's ready.
Okay, well, everyone, turn to page 31, The Letters from No One. I just had a weird moment where maybe I messed up the name of the chapter, but no, I think that's right.
No, The Letters from No One.
Yeah. Today's lesson called Avoiding the Inevitable. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think that fits very nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This chapter, well, actually I didn't look to see how many pages it was, but it felt really short to me in terms of.
I think it was the shortest so far.
Okay. Yeah. And so I finished it and I was like, I know what happens next, but.
It didn't make my synopsis any shorter, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, you should read the synopsis.
You want to hear that?
Yes, I do.
Then I can talk to you about other things I was thinking about with
Yep.
the title. The chapter starts with the end of a school year and preparation for the next. So it's summer break. One morning, Harry is sent to collect the mail, and for the first time ever, he discovers a letter addressed to himself. Uncle Vernon confiscates the letter before Harry can read it. Over the next days, more and more letters keep arriving for Harry, trying to circumvent Uncle Vernon's more and more extreme attempts to prevent them. Eventually, Uncle Vernon is driven to take the family out of town to avoid the letters altogether. When a letter is waiting at their hotel, he takes them to a remote shack near the sea on the day before Harry's birthday. Harry counts down to midnight alone when there is a loud boom at the door. Yeah.
Okay, so what were some of your thoughts with the title?
Yeah, I was playing around with the word escalating or escalation. Also arms race, I was thinking about. I think it's especially visually appealing in the movie, the idea of this arms race. To me, the chapter is great, but it's really suitable for a movie. Like the scene is it's funny, it's kind of dramatic. You can tell Uncle Vernon is becoming unhinged. I think it's easier to see somebody becoming unhinged than read about them becoming unhinged. Like, he's panicking, and caps only go so far, especially in, this day and age of caps basically being used all the time. So those were words and ideas that I was playing around with, but yeah, avoiding the inevitable, where I settled. Yeah.
So the funny thing with the letters is a letter comes and then another letter comes the next day, and then 3 letters come, and then 12, and then 24, and then 100, I think, is the next one at the hotel, or the 40 through the fireplace. But it was interesting when I was reading through it of the reaction from Petunia versus Vernon.
Agreed.
and so some things that I wondered is, I don't know if Vernon had met anyone magical before meeting Petunia and I guess finding out about her magical sister.
Know. It's not even clear that
I don't even know anything about him.
If he ever met Lily. I don't know.
True. That's a good point. Yeah. But in general, throughout this, Petunia seems to have more chill, I guess, is kind of like, because he like immediately freaks out. And then he's like, remember we swore to stamp this out, blah, blah, blah. And then at a certain point, she's like, wouldn't it be better to just go home? And then, like, he goes and he buys a rifle because he's, like, all intense about it. And Dudley's, Daddy's got mad. But it was, I don't know. I was wondering if it was supposed to convey some sort of, like, traditional gender type roles, like, more about the dynamic of the family, that he kind of, like, is the lead and is, like, the more aggressive one. And she's kind of, like,
I have a different take on what's going on there.
I have a second.
Oh, hit me with it.
The second interpretation was perhaps that Petunia, growing up with Lily, knows that at a certain point, you can't really fight magical forces. You just have to go with it, which is why when you said the title, that's like what I thought about was like avoiding you're trying to put it off, but like it's going to happen eventually. So maybe we'll just deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that take. That's what I was thinking about, is sort of like avoidance versus kind of an acceptance. I mean, she avoids it as well, but she recognizes it as inevitable. I think there was never a question in her mind that he was a wizard and they would be coming to get him.
Well, and if you think about
it's interesting to me that she has the scene where she's actually dyeing the robe. She would, what we know about her later, she definitely knows when it would be.
Yeah.
But
if you think about it, she would have grown up when Lily got her acceptance letter to Hogwarts.
Right.
So she would know. I mean, she knows like what Hogwarts is. She knows the whole process. She knows the history, or at least from the perspective of a sibling who is not magical.
She has witnessed a young person pre-Hogwarts doing magic or, I don't know what word I'm looking for, exhibiting magic prior to any training, and it's probably pretty similar.
I guess it kind of makes what happens make sense. So like Vernon seems to be on this mission of like, we're going to stamp out the magic, and she doesn't really have that. At least we have limited dialogue or interactions. It's a lot of like Vernon doing things, but I don't know. Perhaps she doesn't think that. Maybe she'll perhaps like sign on and be like, yeah, sure. Like we'll try to stamp this out.
This just occurred to me. I don't know where this is going, but do you think there's a chance that Vernon ever thought Petunia was just wrong, or that there is no magic? I mean, let's just go down the hypothetical that he never actually met Lily. Petunia just tells him that, magic exists. And maybe like he's just kind of like, it's one of those conspiracies that she's like, it's like ghosts. Sorry. Like ghosts definitely exist,
Yeah.
Magic. Yeah, I'm sure magic exists. But then when it actually hits him that like this letter came, it sounds like they read one of them.
Well, I think everything we've seen up until this point, he's been able to handle on his own by punishing Harry or locking him in the cupboard. Like every like strange thing that we've been talking about so far, there's like, okay, it's manageable. But then with the letter with Hogwarts, it's actually magical people from outside reaching in and like actually reaching into your home. And because the letter is addressed specifically to Harry, the cupboard under the stairs, like it's specifically there. And that's like where the paranoia comes in of like, oh, not only is this thing happening, but it seems that we have been monitored this whole time, regardless of whether they actually, it seemed like they didn't know that.
Yeah, but he immediately gets there. He's like, oh, deep state magical people are watching me and recording me and monitoring everything that I do. Yeah. That's what I mean. He like doubles back in the car and he goes completely paranoid.
Oh, so you think that this is like the moment where it's kind of like all comes together for him?
Yeah. I think he could have, I don't know. It's just kind of what I'm thinking about. He could have probably rationalized away all the weird occurrences. like you're saying, I think your point of it being those were all sort of internal things within the family, Harry creating them, and this is an external force seeking them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you have any favorite quotes?
I did grab some quotes. Yeah. Did you grab any quotes?
I have one.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is, I was focusing on the birthdays. So Harry is saying in his head, of course, his birthdays were never exactly fun. Last year, the Dursleys had given him a coat hanger and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Still, we weren't 11 every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminded me, we were talking about new experiences in a previous podcast episode. And so like I was thinking about new experiences as a child. And like a big part is the joy in celebrating a birthday when you're young. And this idea of like, oh, you're not 11 every day. Mm. And we had just had Dudley's birthday, that whole fiasco. And now we're nearing closer to Harry's birthday. And I don't know, it's just interesting because it's like, well, I know what happens next, but Harry doesn't know what's about to happen.
No, he definitely does not. Yeah. Yeah. Another gem of a chapter, in my opinion. I mean, these chapters, I'm sure eventually I'll come to a chapter where I'm like, yeah, it's good. Like, I can see it serving its purposes.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. But there's something about it. Like, it's just the tone. Like, it's so clear and it's the right length of time to, like, build for us. And then it ends so obviously with, like, some event. Yeah, boom. I mean, how
literally.
The countdown and the boom. Yeah. I mean, I got really only one quote that I thought was maybe relevant to the title of the episode, but I think then I had two other quotes I just love. It's Vernon talking to Petunia. Oh, these people's minds work in strange ways, Petunia. They're not like you and me. And it goes on, and it's like when he like takes the fruitcake and tries to pound in a nail. It's somebody talking as though other people are crazy when he himself is like exhibiting this just crazy avoidance. It's wild. I'd love that. I also really like this quote. They also carried knobbly sticks used for hitting each other while the teachers weren't looking. This was supposed to be good training for later life.
I do remember reading that quote, and I do also remember chuckling at that.
It just, like, literally hitting somebody / bullying while the teacher isn't looking is actually good training for later in life. Like, it is how you get away with, like, treating people badly when you do it and how you do it and, like, who the authorities are and how to sort of play it off.
I mean, another way to look at it is like, this is all there is.
That's right. We are exactly who we were from middle school for the rest of our life. Yeah, just a little bit taller.
We don't need training. We just need to keep interacting with humans.
Yeah.
Being tortured, torturing each other. That's a very grim look at the world.
It is a very grim look. Yeah, it is very grim. And the last one that I had was just, I'm reading something into it, but I just really liked it. Harry's talking about how he never got any letters, and he says he didn't even belong to the library, so he'd never even got rude notes asking for books back. And I thought that was J.K. Rowling just spitting some fire at library policy. Rude notes asking for books back. Yeah, I could imagine she experienced this. Somehow I don't find it. She probably at some point got a letter or multiple letters that were like, you have 1,000 outstanding books. Bring them back right now. That's how I imagine it, at least. Yeah. She's got the baggage.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like little snippets, I'm sure, in there.
Yeah. But I think the tone, like, if we're going to step back from the chapter, this idea of trying to avoid the inevitable, it seems like something, at least I do all the time. Mm-hmm. Put another way, I procrastinate things. Yes. So it's if it's not quite procrastination in the book, it's more just like the ticking time bomb of time. Like, change is going to come. There's no way to avoid it. Mm-hmm. You can't roll back the clock. You can't freeze Harry at, 10 years and 11 months. Mm-hmm. So, but they're not prepared. They didn't prepare. That they knew it was coming, but they didn't prepare.
Well, okay, so that line though, when Vernon is talking to Petunia, and he's like, "Remember, we swore when we took him in that we would stamp out this nonsense," and that just makes it so frustrating to me. I'm going back to Dumbledore. What up? Why'd you leave him with these people?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would also have loved to see the exchange, like the handoff. Like, what was it that happened during that? I guess it was a letter, though. He was left on the doorstep.
Left on the doorstep, yeah.
Because, I don't know.
Yeah. Dumbledore also avoided it. He didn't, talk to him. He just dropped Harry off,
I mean...
Because what? He wanted to avoid Petunia? Who knows? He wanted to avoid the guilt of, actually seeing how they would react to seeing Harry. They probably left him out there for a day. Who knows? I don't know.
It's just bizarre.
It is. I think it's, avoiding the inevitable is a real, you and I talk a lot about death in, over the 7 years that we've been together already. And so not
just
all the time.
Light conversation.
Enough to have had real conversations about what it means and what it looks like. And one of the things that always comes up is, do other people have these conversations frequently?
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
Yeah. That this is going to happen. You are going to get older. You're going to die. Everyone you like is going to die. Everyone you love is going to die. We don't talk about it.
At some point, you're not going to exist
this
anymore.
This is worse than death for Petunia and Vernon.
Well, I think about that a lot with I had this whole transformative journey when I was writing my dissertation where I basically had to say out loud and actually in writing, at some point my ideas will become irrelevant and nobody will know them anymore. And that as a way to make myself take a few seats, I'm not that important. On the grand scheme of things, all I'm trying to do is the best that I can here and now. And there's no grander thing that, or just letting go of the desire to leave my mark on the world and expect it or want it to be there in perpetuity. That's kind of this idea of we are in this material world together, sharing space. And I don't know, we kind of cycle through. It's we have our individualism and who we are, and that seems to be very important to us in the way that we make sense of our selfhood.
Right.
But at the same time, to be able to cope with something we're all gonna die, we kind of have to let that go.
Yeah, I think coping is an interesting idea. Acceptance as well, right? If Vernon and Petunia just accepted the inevitable, their lives seem like they would improve a ton.
Yeah. So
they wouldn't be so worried about things all the time.
Instead, they're in the good place. They are tortured. They are tortured by themselves.
For sure, no one else is doing it to them.
Yeah.
Nobody else is
out to get them.
Yeah. Probably some of their neighbors are hiding some wizards, I mean, we know not actually, but somebody that they know probably knows about it, It's bizarre. It's the right word. I mean, behavior, the way that their behavior is driven by trying to ignore something that is true is fascinating.
And as someone on the outside, to be able to see that, but also from their perspective, they're doing what they think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in order to, and that's that's the crazy thing to me, is that you have these different perspectives and you can see things depending on how close you are to it and how, I don't know, how you process it. Are you processing it as something that is doom and gloom? It seems as if they haven't actually fully so maybe this fits in with the whole thing of Vernon is for the first time confronting really aggressively what the situation is here with Harry. Petunia might have had more time to process it because she has a frame of reference. She has some other information to think about Harry when she interacts with him. And Vernon, possibly this is very new to him. And the reaction is very, very fierce.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So, yeah.
It's amazing to me how realistic, how deep J.K. Rowling has created 4 characters in a matter of 3 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like we can talk about them at this level because she's given us such a rich look into their psyches.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, again, the benefit of hindsight about Petunia.
Yeah.
And why she might be acting differently from Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you don't have that knowledge, both of their reactions, like her kind of timidly, okay, there could be a gendered side to it, but those 2 reactions of like, do everything that you possibly can, even though it's like futile, and then also just like freezing and being like, oh no, I guess it's here, the worst nightmare is here, I don't know. It's interesting. And then Dudley's just so confused. Your favorite character?
Oh, Dudley. Well, that's why. So I like so there was the initial exchange, and he's like asking who, or Harry was asking who he was getting letters from, and Vernon's like, no one. And so like the letters from no one. It's like this another mystery setting up of what is happening here. Who is sending him letters? All we got is the Hogwarts seal. Does it even say Hogwarts? No, it just says an H, I think.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see Dudley moving forward. Because his parents wouldn't have told him about magic. They barely even admit it to themselves. But now he's going to be confronted with it in a similar way that Harry is, except with starkly different relationships to magic and wizardry.
So do you think that the Dursleys will let Dudley in and like explain everything to him, or do you think that they'll like continue to
I think
suppress
it'll be
the
limited.
truth? Yeah.
I think it would be limited. Like, I want to say that he knows soon. I haven't read that far ahead in this book yet, but eventually it seems like he knows that Harry goes to some other school, and eventually he recognizes the wand as something important somehow, but I don't know. I believe, we don't see their relationship, but I believe that, actually now that I'm thinking about it, probably they try to keep it from him, but they spoil him so much that eventually they would just...
Well, because I would also imagine that they would want another person to like gossip about Harry with, like, just to be mean, because they seem like those kinds of people.
Yeah. Just as you said that, it occurs to me that some of the physical abuse that they perpetrate, they use Dudley as the weapon against Harry. They don't punish him for it. It's very clear so far that he physically hits, and Vernon even encourages him in this chapter to use his stick. But it's crazy. I mean, here we are. We're at the end of chapter 3, and the inevitable of our own sort of early journey here is that we're about to find out, what some of these secrets are, and they've arrived with a boom.
Yeah. I would love to know what people listening and watching, I don't know, what were you reading in this? Because like we went straight to death.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that I don't know, just like what are some things, that's the thing that I love about, well, especially like rereading something, picking up on things depending on like where your mindset is, or like where things that you've been thinking about, what stage you are in your life, that sort of thing.
Well, there's that famous quote, there are only 2 certainties in life, death and taxes. But I know a lot of people who've gone to jail for tax fraud, so I don't know anyone who's avoided death,
Wow. Just kidding.
Yeah. So that's why my mind went to it, but...
No, I think it's a good theme. I think that it fits the vibe of what's going on here.
Yeah, because this is death to them. I mean, this is worse. It's much worse than Harry dying to them. It's, yeah. All right.
Okay.
All set?
All set.
Okay. Wands ready.